All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down one of the most influential frameworks in the history of business, Michael Porter's model of competitive strategies. You can think of it as a playbook that has literally shaped how companies think about winning for more than 40 years. So, here's our game plan for today. We'll kick things off with the big question every single business has to face. Then, we'll map out the competitive battlefield using Porter's famous 5 forces. After that, we'll get into the actual playbook of strategies he laid out, see how the model holds up in the real world, and finally, really understand why it's still such a big deal today. Okay, let's just dive right in. Every single company, whether it's the coffee shop on your corner or a massive global tech company, they're all wrestling with the exact same fundamental challenge. It's a question that sits at the heart of, well, everything in our economy. Right, so this is the central question, isn't it? How do some companies just crush it while others, well, they just fail? Back in 1980, a business strategist named Michael Porter came along with this really powerful, elegant framework to answer that. His big idea was that successful companies don't just get lucky. Nope, they make very specific, very deliberate strategic choices. Okay, so before you can even think about winning, you've got to understand the rules of the game and the field you're playing on. For Porter, that field, or as he calls it, the arena, where all the competition happens, is the industry itself. And that arena, it turns out, is shaped by some pretty powerful forces. See, he argued that how tough the competition is in any industry, well, it's not random at all. It's actually shaped by the combined push and pull of 5 fundamental forces. If you can understand these forces, you can start to see your own company's strengths and weaknesses in a whole new light. And these are the 5 forces. It's not just about who you're directly competing against. You also have to worry about brand new companies jumping into your market, products that could replace yours, and of course, the power that both your customers and your suppliers have over you. Porter's whole point was that the combined strength of these 5 things is what really determines how much money there is to be made in an industry. All right, so you've mapped out the arena. Now what? How do you actually position yourself to win? This is where Porter gives us a really clear playbook. He says that competitive strategy really comes down to making 2 critical, deliberate choices. And it really just boils down to this. First, you have to decide how you're going to compete. That's your strategic advantage. Are you going to win by being cheaper than everybody else or by being totally unique and different? Second, you have to choose where you'll compete. That's your strategic target. Are you going after the whole market or are you zeroing in on a very specific, narrow slice of it? And this right here, this table just brilliantly lays out the core of the whole model. When you combine those 2 things, your advantage and your target, you get this crystal clear map of your options. You can see how aiming for a broad target with a low-cost advantage gets you cost leadership, while aiming for that same broad target with a unique product gives you differentiation. It's simple, but powerful. So this all boils down to what Porter called 3 generic strategies. You can aim to be the low-cost leader for the entire industry. You can create a product that's so unique and desirable that customers will happily pay more for it. Or you can go for a focus strategy where you pour all your energy into one specific niche and serve them better than anyone else, either by being the cheapest or the most different. But here's where it gets really interesting. Porter had this super stark warning. He basically said, you have to choose. You gotta pick a lane. Trying to be the cheapest and the most premium, for instance, that's a recipe for disaster. You end up with a confused brand, inefficient operations, and you don't really appeal to anyone. Getting stuck in the middle is the fastest way to lose. Okay, so the model is super elegant, it's powerful, but is it perfect? Not exactly. Let's put this theory on trial for a minute and take an honest look at its strengths and its limitations in the real world. On the one hand, people love this model for its incredible clarity and structure. It just makes sense. But on the other hand, critics argue it's just too static. It's like taking a single photograph of a super fast car race. It doesn't really capture the constant change, the rapid tech innovations, or the disruptive startups that don't just compete in the old arena. They build a whole new one. Think about how smartphones created an entirely new world, rather than just competing with old cell phones. So you might be thinking, with all these criticisms, why on earth are we still talking about a model from 1980? Why does every single business student still have to learn this framework? Well, the answer really lies in its profound and, frankly, enduring impact. Its influence is just huge. It's hard to overstate. Just look at this number, 807. A search way back in 2005 in just one academic database found that Porter's original work had been cited 807 times. That is a massive academic footprint, and it just goes to show how foundational this one idea became for the entire field of business strategy.
So here's the bottom line. It might not be a perfect crystal ball for today's chaotic market, but what it does, and what it still does so well, is it forces clarity. It provides the simple, powerful, and actionable framework that makes every business answer the most fundamental questions. How are we going to be different, and where are we going to choose to win?
And that leaves us with a final thought, something for you to chew on. As you go about your day, think about the brands you really love, the companies you buy from. Are they winning because they're the cheapest, because they're unique, or because they have this laser focus on a tiny niche? Applying Porter's lens to the world around you, well, it might just reveal the hidden strategies that are driving our entire economy.